Alright, so we're live. Howdy, howdy. So here we have Burning Rangers for the Sega Saturn. It was one of the later released Saturn games by Sega, released in 1998, shortly before the end of the Saturn in the US. It runs on the same engine as Nights into Dreams with some slight modifications. Basically, so this game plays a futuristic firefighter. I'm going to play as Tillis because she's about 3 seconds faster because of a cutscene. And so I'm going to select her, and let me know when you're ready on the timer.
Ready to go?
Alrighty. So we'll start in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good luck.
Thank you. Alright, so we play as a futuristic firefighter. The most notable thing about this game is the intro theme, which you've heard is cameoed in Phantasy Star Online and maybe other games as well. This game is heavily voice acted, which is very unusual for the time. They did have voice acting in games, but it wasn't common to see. And a lot of in-house Sega people that you might recognize from later games, like Sonic Adventure and maybe other stuff. This game doesn't particularly run at a very good frame rate, but it controls really well. If you're familiar with Nights into Dreams, the movement feels somewhat similar to that, but we do have some other mechanics. We have this boost dash mechanic. If you press a direction while in the air and press the jump button at the same time, you'll do a boost maneuver. You can do different kinds depending on your direction. This game does have some bumping music, but you don't get to hear a whole lot of it. Sadly, the game is mostly pretty silent, relying on ambient sound effects and occasionally some mood-setting tones. So in this game, normally you're supposed to rescue people, put out fires and all that jazz, but we're skipping all that just because it's too slow. Each person you rescue has their own line of dialogue and uses crystals. This game has a damage system similar to the Sonic games, where as long as you have at least one crystal, you will be fine. So if you notice in the UI, we have a couple of things going on there. We have our crystals, we have a timer that resets whenever you enter a new room. And the most important is that green bar that's slowly turning red. If it turns completely red, there will be a series of explosions that slow the game down, and basically is just punishing you for not putting out fires. And so most of the movement is revolved around doing dashing and various jump maneuvers. You have two different kinds of double jumps. You have one where if you double tap it quickly, you'll do a super high jump with a lot of vertical height, but not a whole lot of horizontal motion. If you do a jump and then do a small delay between your next jump, you'll get a lot more horizontal motion, but a lot less vertical. And mainly we will just be dashing everywhere, but the double jumps do come in handy later in the run. This game basically pulled out all the stops on the Saturn. It had true 3D transparencies. The game was almost in fully 3D except with like sprites for like the fires. You won't see a whole lot of the true 3D transparencies, but you do see it in a couple sections like glass. And it basically did a bunch of stuff that was never thought possible on the Saturn. But it also takes a hit in performance because of that. But I would say it runs at a decent frame rate, but there will be a lot of lag in points, like especially coming up here. As you can see, like the game just slowing down immensely as it shakes when there's an explosion. Ooh. There we go. So you can kind of fly through fires. The hitbox for fires are pretty low to the ground, so you can just generally fly over them, but they do push you up a little bit. And the only downside of the speed run is that there are cutscenes like this. So now we got Reed Phoenix here telling us some stuff, voiced by the guy who played Knuckles in the first Sonic Adventure game.
Good job, Reed. Of course.
And if you're a voice acting buff, a lot of these voices may sound familiar to you. From other Sonic Team games, or just Sega games in general. Alright, so now we're on our way. And on your first playthrough of the game, the stages are always the same, but after you beat the game and you do subsequent playthroughs, things get moved around, people you can rescue are changed. and switches are in different spots, and sometimes doorways that were closed previously are now open. So we're always playing on a new game file because of that. But it has a very arcade sense to it in that your goal is just to beat your scores and also rescue new people. Every time you rescue a person, it takes at least 5 crystals to rescue someone, but it'll take up to 10. And if there are a few mandatory rescues like this guy, and if there's a mandatory rescue, there will always be crystals nearby. And at the end of each stage, there's a boss. So those barrels can be a little tricky to get over sometimes. And normally they expect you to do the spiral platforming to get around, but you can just do a double jump and ledge grab and get up here. And so now we're introduced to the charge shot. The charge shot's the only way to damage bosses, and for whatever reason it charges faster if you're in the air. Ooh, that's bad. And you can see it's getting really laggy because of all the fire going on here. Okay, there we go. So the boss is a little slow. Basically, every time you hit him, he flips the other direction. There we go. And you can only hit him when he's facing towards you. And ideally, you don't want to move around too much, because it just gets hard to follow him. And after each stage, there's an anime cutscene, but sadly, in the speedrun, we have to skip them. And they basically just have a little exposition in the story. Basically, if you're familiar with Sonic Adventure 2, that story borrows a little bit from this game in the sense that things are happening, and we have to travel to a space station that is crashing, that's hurtling towards Earth, and stop that from happening by destroying the life form that has attached itself to it. And after each stage, we get a score results screen, and then we just go straight into the next stage. And then each time we're treated like a little cutscene here. This is the longest mission in this game, mainly because it has a lot of cutscenes that you can't skip. And it's not a particularly interesting stage in general. I like it because it introduces swimming in water, which it's unique in its own way. Basically, if you mash your attack and jump button, you can get a lot of speed underwater just by alternating them. There we go. Nice clean little room there. Sometimes the fire can just knock you out and really mess with you. And like I said, for the most part, we're avoiding fire. You can get crystals from putting out fires, which I do occasionally if there's no crystals nearby and I have none. Because dying wastes a lot of time. You go to the last checkpoint, and in this stage, the first checkpoint is pretty far in. But for the most part, checkpoints aren't too spaced far apart, but here they are.
Turn right. Okay, hurry up. This corridor's underwater.
Nice, getting good movement. So one of the problems with this game is that dropped inputs are an issue. And here we have our buddy, the Dolphin. I just call him Echo because, you know, Sega. Even though the Dolphin has no official name. Ooh, at least I got hit into the room. That was weird. Alright, so hopefully I can get some crystals really quickly because dying would be very bad. Okay, nice. There's a fire there. And there we go. And so just like Knights, crystals kind of gravitate towards you in the way that collectibles in Knights do.
You must hurry.
This is big. I found 15 people.
And the camera's actually mostly pretty good for the most part. It follows you pretty decently, and there's only a couple points where it can be problematic. And so now here's the first checkpoint in the stage, pretty far in. If we died before this point, we'd start all the way back to the beginning of the stage, cutscenes and everything. So it can be a little scary.
Chris, I think the Dolphin.
Tillis, the director's
And see here, you can see on the side a little bit of those transparencies I was talking about. The Saturn was thought to not be able to do that because there's no native library for it. It's something that you had to program yourself, and of course no one's going to do that. So here we have like a little mini boss fight. Whoa. And we just have to hit it a few times. Ooh. Okay, where am I? There we go. Camera got... Normally he doesn't move, but I got hit, so it kind of messed with me.
Doesn't look good. I seriously doubt he's part of the maintenance crew. Obviously, something's not right.
And there's another robot there, but there's only one other robot in the stage that we have to destroy. So now here, mandatory cutscene. Basically, he gives us a key card. You can only get it from the cutscene, but it shows you receiving and collecting it. So we rescue this guy, gives us a key card, and we can continue on. Because there's no way to get through that door without collecting this key card. Because surprisingly, walls in this game are very solid. But there are some weird spots where you can randomly grab onto an invisible ledge on the ceiling, but there's no way to actually utilize that to clip through it or anything.
Tillis, head to the monitor room. We need accurate data, fast. Use the ID card to open the hatch. Okay.
Yeah. So there's like a little bit of dropped inputs there. There we go.
You need to find the ID card.
So now we can continue on, and more dialogue happens.
This is Reed. I'm entering the water channel.
But as you can see, like when you see those 3D transparencies, things slow down quite a bit because it's all done by the software, not the hardware. Or I should say, not necessarily by the software, but it's not done natively by the Saturn. It's done by programming done to create that effect.
We're almost in the recreation area.
So here we have a fairly lengthy cutscene. It's supposed to give a little revealing into Tillis' motivation for a Burning Ranger, I guess. How she wants to save everybody.
Special event today, and that more than two
And after this cutscene, there's a switch we have to hit to open a door. It's really easy to miss if you're not paying attention, because
It's too far from your
it's not obvious that you're supposed to hit it.
Chris, the dolphin was saying something about a monster. This may be the key to saving.
And apparently Tillis can talk to dolphins and understand what they say.
Tillis, what are you talking about?
Chris, we're not going to save them all if I don't do anything. I don't want to see another child suffer like I had to. I'm going to save their future.
And basically, Tillis' whole backstory is that she doesn't have a backstory. She has a mysterious past that never really gets talked about or resolved.
We found them.
There's not 200 people down here.
And see the switch right here, if you're not paying attention, it's really easy to miss that. I've actually missed that in runs before, but I try to make a habit of remembering about it.
Big.
Okay, so we're a little high here. There's a rescue there that sometimes you can accidentally hit, but if you're close enough to the left, you can avoid it.
I'll send them out immediately.
I'm ready.
So there's different kinds of fire that you can put out with your weapon. Red fire goes out in one hit. Oop. And then green and blue fires take multiple hits with regular shot, but they go away in one hit with a charged shot. But if you use a charged shot, you don't get any crystals from putting out the fire.
This building.
And our buddy the dolphin is back now and is helping us because we helped him. Yeah, this game is pretty expensive these days. And sort of rare for a US copy. It's just released way late in the Saturn's lifespan. And it's actually a pretty decent game. I would say it's not worth the price, but it's a pretty good game for a few playthroughs, and I think it's a nice speed run as well.
Indicates an existence of a huge energy reading.
But you have to accept that it does not run at a good frame rate.
I believe you.
This is Reed. How's Tillis doing?
Show. Tillis, follow me. Yeah,
Oh.
right.
So basically I can time my boosts with the
Survivors to safer
the thrusters on the rear.
reporting process now.
Got it. Hang in there.
Like when they reach a certain size, that means I can do a boost again, or do the inputs for the boost again to just keep chaining them.
Jump into the
All right, now we're entering another underwater section. The dolphin's basically guiding us to where we need to go, and it'll be the last one where it's entirely underwater.
I won't be able to provide accurate navigation.
And moving underwater is mostly pretty good. I don't really like this section because there's a lot of
Tillis, what is he saying?
pathways that push you through, so you don't really get to keep control.
What? Can you take me there?
And so now the dolphin's helping us to take care of the problem that's triggered with this place from blowing up and stuff. And also, it's really easy to get caught on corners when you're underwater for some reason. There we go.
Exactly is under the lab.
An old transmitting device was found when the lab was built, but I don't think that caused the earthquake.
Awesome. Now we're out of here, back on land.
Tillis, I don't have the full data of the area you're in now. You must find a way out.
Tillis, time it.
What?
Whoa.
It's not over yet.
Tillis, hurry up, but don't panic.
And there's a door that's sometimes in this part that I just flew over that sometimes is either half open or closed depending on how quick you are. The slower you are, the more closed it is. And since we were pretty quick, it was completely open.
Tillis,
So now here's a room with 3 robots and a green fire spout, and we only have to destroy the robot in the back to open the door, despite giving the appearance. Okay, phew. Okay, there we go. And the room is quite laggy as well. But as long as we just destroy that one robot in the back, the door will open. Killing any of the robots will not open the door.
Tillis, the energy reading inside is getting bigger.
And now we're in the boss of this game, which is a giant fish. It looks very similar to Gopo from Nice into Dreams. But instead of dashing at it, we blow it up. And it kind of has weird hitboxes as well. Whoa. It's actually pretty rare to get hit by this boss. Because like I said, you basically just have to be in his way. Okay, come on, platforms. Be kind. And so basically every time you hit him, he gets a period of invulnerability. There we go. And targeting is kind of weird as well. Come on, there we go. And basically I just got to keep moving around to go on platforms he hasn't knocked down. There we go. Nice. And so now this crystal starts making an appearance, and it plays a part later in the story in all the happenings that are going on. Basically, it's some computer entity that was programmed to send the space colony back to Earth when a cure was found for some girl who had some incurable disease. It was basically frozen in stasis. And now that a cure has been found, a signal was sent to the colony, and now it's carrying out its mission of colliding with Earth.
Chris, where's Tillis? What happened to her?
Don't worry, she's okay.
There she is.
This is great, Chris.
And so now we have a little cutscene here.
It's okay if I
Get the
run
cute
up
dolphin going on.
right? Please?
Okay, but only if I can get to ride first.
And another anime cutscene we sadly have to skip. And they're decent cutscenes. I think they're nice. And now we're going to probably my favorite stage to play. It just has really nice movement. It keeps a good pace. And it introduces a zero gravity section. There's not a whole lot of it, but it's unique in how you move in it.
This is quadrant T.
It's basically, if you use your boost at all, you go downwards and you just kind of float upwards the entire time. But if you chain boosts while going, you won't lose your height.
Let's go investigate.
Okay.
And like that. If you don't chain your boosts, then every time you boost, you'll go downwards. Oop. And then I like these lift elevator things. And if you jump while in them, you gain a super amount of height,
You should be able
which
to
is
see
really
some
nice for
of
just
the
getting
other
around. But sadly, there's only a couple of those. If you're familiar with Phantasy Star Online, the first one, the art styles are a lot similar, and there's a lot of similar themes. There's even like some cameos of Burning Ranger stuff in there.
That section may
So now we go up here, hit a switch, go back the way we came, but go left instead of right.
shutter should open. There should be a switch
And then
on
there's
the
another
top.
switch we have to hit to open the actual door. And here, there's like this thing that sucks you out. If you get hit by it, you can get out of it a lot quicker, but there's no. My problem with that is there's no crystals nearby to grab to keep you alive. So it's kind of a dangerous strat to do, and it only saves like a couple of seconds.
This is the escape port. Doesn't look like anyone's here. There's only one escape pod left.
Show
Oop, I
what
got caught
happened.
on something.
I will continue to investigate.
There we go. Okay, so normally if you jump right, you can jump all the way up here. And see, sometimes the fire just kind of pulls you up. Or pushes you up, not pull.
To stop your work. What?
And so these workers don't know what's going on. They think that
We can't stop this.
an asteroid hit or a meteorite hit the place. But they don't really know that the building, or that the space colony is on a collision course with Earth. And so now we're going to do a little skip here. There's a giant machine that's blocking your way that you're supposed to destroy, but conveniently you can just fly around it, and the door behind it isn't closed.
There are a total of 5 crew members. Hurry.
And I actually found that by accident during a marathon run, because I just kind of like hit it and damage boost through it, and I was like, whoa, all the way through the other side.
Tillis, that area has already been secured. Go in through gate B03.
Roger.
Ah,
It's not over yet.
Enter the door.
You've got to listen to her.
okay, alright. And now let's see, is this the room? Yes, this is the room where we enter another anti-gravity section.
This is Reed. Found
So we're just
5
gonna
crew members.
float up and then dash once we hit the height we need.
Roger. Great work, Reed.
Tillis, you're in charge.
And this room is very laggy. There's a lot going on that just causes a ton of slowdown.
Chris, I found a stowaway.
And now we find out that there are 2 kids that stowed away on board playing hide and
One of
seek.
the 3 doors is open.
One of them gets found, and we have to find the other one.
The door below and to the right.
Whoa, there we go.
Tillis, the dock will be scorched in a short while. The burning ship will break away and
Hit a switch here, opens another door,
transporting.
Okay, you be careful.
and then we're gonna have to do a little escort. We're gonna find the kid and escort him to safety. And it's kind of a sore point in this stage, because if you get hit once while escorting the kid, you have to start it over.
You'll be okay.
But at least it's only that escort section. But like I said, dying wastes a lot of time, because it has to load another screen,
Wow.
and then it loads back into this.
Right? You're really a burning ranger.
We got a little blue-haired kid, so excited to see us, happy about us helping him.
I'll transport him. Set coordinates.
Negative.
So normally we can teleport people to safety, but because there's a magnetic storm going on, we have to take them to an escape pod and save them ourselves the manual way.
Come on, let's go.
It's that kid from Night. Yeah, he looks like Elliot, but he has a different name. So while we're carrying this kid, we can't do most of our movement. We can't do double jumps, we can't do boost movement, and falling down is bad.
Tillis, our transmission's breaking up. Please hurry and get out of there.
Tillis! Neil, close your eyes if you get scared.
Alright,
This must
decent
be the
section.
escape pod. Hurry, get on! Tillis, there's only room for one person.
And now we're so nice that we're going to throw him into escape pod and cut off one of his hands,
You, Tillis.
because he doesn't need it.
I'll find another escape pod. I don't want to leave you. Be brave. He's waiting for you to come back. You don't want him to worry any more than you
Oh, and we got a rogue Chubbis laugh.
You have to
I'm
promise
so
you'll
sorry.
come back.
I had to unmute myself. This part makes me laugh every time.
I promise. I'll be waiting for you. I'll be waiting
And see,
till you come
just
back.
cut off his hand and part of his leg.
I can't break
He
my
doesn't
promise,
need that.
son.
Can you hand him a package, please? Sorry about that. Alright, so now we're entering another boss. This boss is really fast. It can be, at least. But
It's a same thing.
it can be a little trolly. Not the boss itself, but how your targeting works.
Who's there?
The defense systems have been activated. Hurry, get out.
So basically, we have to keep destroying. We have to keep attacking pieces of his armor, and to reveal the core. But sometimes your targeting just does not want to cooperate. And it's also very laggy when there's a lot going on. See, like I just said right there, it just randomly shot off in some random direction because sometimes this targeting just does not want to target what you want it to target. There we go. Speedy enough. And now we're lost from our crew. We get separated and we're somewhere on the collapsing space colony. And we have to go find a girl and save her. Because she's in suspended animation and we gotta go wake her up. I think her name is Irina or something like that.
Chris, come in. I lost her. What's going on out there? I need to get.
And now she's gonna help us get around with her psychic powers.
There's that voice again.
Go save Maria. Nah, this chick's way cooler than Maria.
Stay alert.
So if we time our jumps right here, we can grab the ledge. Sadly, we weren't able to make it because they actually put a little thing in the way so that you can't do that. Oop. And normally you're supposed to hit a switch to make some platforms appear, but we don't like hitting switches if we don't have to. There we go. Sometimes grabbing that ledge can be a little finicky. And there's like a little sub-boss here that you're technically supposed to fight, but the exit is right below it and available, so we just skip it. Like, for the longest time, I had no idea that there was a boss there. Until someone pointed it out to me that it's like, oh, you can skip that boss. Another little underwater section here. It can be a little confusing to get around.
Go up.
But luckily, I've done it enough to know where to go. Whoops. Okay, there we go. Alrighty. And then we're going to do a little a reverse Indiana Jones section where we're going to run to the boulders instead of running away. Because we have to get through to the lift behind it.
Alert.
And now we're gonna hit probably the hardest section in the speed run, precise platforming, because this game is not precise in the slightest. So having to do it is very tough. So we're gonna jump up here, and we're gonna go over here, and we're gonna skip most of this platforming. So we can jump over here and just fly straight, and we just basically skip the entire platforming section. There we go, and this little end part can be a little scary because if you fall off, you have to basically start all that platforming over again. And now this is like I don't know, a weird sub boss thing, but it has no invincibility frame, so we can just continuously damage it. As long as we can shoot, we can hit it. And again, I'm jumping a lot because you charge up your laser faster. Easy peasy. Sometimes it can get a little scary because I've had the platforms go completely sideways and it's scary when it does that. So now we're entering an auto-scroller, but you can speed up a little bit because there are boosters hidden about and there are also obstacles that can slow you down. I love the track for this stage, it's great. And the stage and the concept itself is pretty cool. Kind of has like an F-Zero vibe going on, but not as exciting, I would say. Like, I would say it's essence of F-Zero.
Okay, this is it. Tillis, on your mark.
Confirmed.
Destination, ship central core. Full blast.
Roger.
And so basically we're just going to spam our gunshot because it clears out any obstacles and any like debris in the way and fire. Because we are firefighters. And then, like I said, we want to hit as many boosters as we can. And try to avoid hitting other things. Let's see if I recall. There it is. Ooh. There we go. So, like, Sonic style, as long as we have at least one crystal, we're fine. Oh, missed that booster, but at least there's one here. So the more boosters you hit, the not necessarily the faster you go, but the longer you can keep your speed. And you can die here, and it's very bad if you do, because it replays that whole that intro dialogue, and that's quite a lengthy one. There we go. So you can move up and down as well as like go all the way around. So you do get some freedom of movement here. There's a little bit slope. I usually average about like a 105 or 106, but I did hit some extra obstacles and debris I don't normally hit.
Okay. Good luck.
But you can get to really close to a minute if you're really good.
Okay, everyone, let's do it.
And so the next stage is really cool. We're going to skip the entirety of it. I've actually never done the final stage casually because the level skip's just so easy to do. And it's basically the only skip in the game. And it actually does some interesting stuff. It skips some cutscenes that normally play and a bunch of other stuff. So now we're going to jump up here, turn the camera around, align ourselves, do a double jump. And if we did that right, we did not, we would have grabbed onto the ledge there. If we move too far forward, it will start triggering some stuff with Big Landman over there. Okay. So sometimes it can be problematic because, like I said, grabbing isn't perfect. There we go. Finally got enough height. And we just skipped the entirety of the stage. So now all that's left is 2 mini bosses and the final boss. So this guy is a little interesting. You can only attack him when his eye is open, like that, and that's when he'll shoot too. But you can time your attacks based on like when he snaps. There we go. There we go, and we can move during cutscenes. So normally when we enter this room, a cutscene plays that gives a lot of reveal for what's going on. Oops. But we can by doing that level skip, it skips a bunch of cutscene triggers. If we were to die at that fight, though, it would reset the cutscene trigger and play as properly. All right, now we're entering the final boss section. Basically, it has 2 phases, and this phase is really easy. It's just a crystal that you just keep, or not crystal, but like a sphere that you just keep blowing up. It does shoot lasers, and it can't put up a shield, but generally we were pretty quick to prevent it from doing anything.
Wow!
There we go. A little bit slow, but that's fine. And so now we're entering phase 2, where it has 4 different attacks that can vary depending on how much health it has. And on the first hit, it's free. Multiple hits later, you have to destroy these 2 discs in order to damage it. And you can also get multiple hits per phase if you time it perfectly and you get lucky on targeting. Because I've actually been able to chain 4 hits on a failed run. And that was pretty wild. Okay, get a crystal. Okay, that's a bit slow. So you can only basically hit it when its wings are glowing that rainbow color. Hello. There we go. So see, I just got 2 hits in there. If I was able to time it better, I would have gotten all 4 hits. So I'm waiting for the fires there, because otherwise the fires take precedence over normal targeting. Dang, I was hoping I can get an extra hit in there because he did a weird thing. Yeah, this boss is very reminiscent of Dark Falls. A lot of the same artists on this game also worked on Phantasy Star Online. If you're familiar with that game, it looks very similar to that. A lot of the art direction is very similar as well. And time. Okay, that was Burning Rangers. And now we get a nice little heartfelt animated cutscene.
It looks like the shield is gone. Reed, prepare for transport now.
Shoot, I can't. There's a huge magnetic storm and I can't synchronize the coordinates.
How can this
Anyways, thank you for having me. I look forward to the rest of the marathon. There's a lot of great games and runners lined up. It's going to be an exciting weekend if you're a fan of Sega or just a fan of any of the games coming up. Dang, 3430, that's pretty speedy. My PB is like a 3420 or 3410, but it hasn't been uploaded to speedrun.com yet. So that was pretty close.
Tillis,
I'm back home.
you did a remarkable job by yourself. You did really well.
You made it back. Cool.
Congratulations on the run. We were doing back-end things.
Oh,
We
thank you.
apologize.
Hey, it's no problem. I look forward to the rest of the marathon, and there will be more Sega Saturn games if you like the Sega Saturn. There will be a Silhouette Mirage race tomorrow, along with me and Karaoke racing Magic Knight Rayearth, and I believe there's some other Sega Saturn games as well appearing. Taromaru, which is a really interesting Sega Saturn game. It's very rare and hard to come by, so it's cool that there are people that run it.
And up next on the marathon, we have Wiz and Liz by Silver Dial.